He kicked me out with nothing but a trash bag of clothes and $23 in my wallet. A week later, I walked away with the $2.3 million deal he thought would make him rich. Stay with me as I walk you through how everything happened. If it moves you even a little, don't forget to like, share, and support the channel. You never know who might need to hear this. My name is Lena Cartwright. I'm 29, and up until a few weeks ago, I thought I was building a life with someone I could trust. I moved from Pennsylvania to California for Brett Malone, my fiancé, the man I thought I'd grow old with. He was smart, confident, and had big dreams of launching a tech startup that could change the world. I believed in him. I believed in us. For 2 years, I gave everything I had. I did the admin work, helped build pitch decks, reached out to investors, and even cleaned houses on weekends to pay our bills. I never got a paycheck, never asked for one. I figured once the company made it, we'd both share the success. But Brett had other plans. It happened on a Monday. He came home from a meeting with this slick investor named Chase Delroy, acting strange, cold, distant. Then out of nowhere, he said, "You're not contributing anymore. You don't bring anything to the table." His words hit like a slap. I was stunned. Before I could even process it, he tossed a trash bag at me and said, "Pack your stuff." Just like that. No warning, no discussion. I asked if we could talk. He rolled his eyes and said, "You're holding me back, Lena. I need people who can actually help me grow." I packed what I could in the trash bag, grabbed my wallet, checked it, $23. That's all I had. I was numb, angry, but mostly heartbroken. As I turned to leave, I noticed an old folder on the kitchen counter, covered in dust. I grabbed it without thinking, more out of habit than purpose. I took a cab to a friend's place. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything I gave up, my time, my energy, my dreams, all for a man who tossed me aside like garbage. I opened the folder. Inside were sketches, blueprints, the early drafts of Brett's app idea, except they weren't his. They were mine. I'd made them in the first few months, when we were brainstorming. He didn't even bother updating them, just took them, slapped his name on them, and called them his. That night, something inside me shifted. I stopped crying. I stopped feeling sorry for myself. He thought he'd thrown me out with nothing, but he forgot I built the foundation of his dream. And now, I had the one thing he needed to make it real. I sat on the edge of Arden's couch, holding the dusty folder in my lap. It felt heavier now, like it carried more than just paper. I opened it slowly, and there they were, my sketches, my notes, my prototype for the app. I recognized every detail, every scribbled margin, every color-coded page. It was like opening a time capsule of a version of me that still believed in Brett. Back then, I had spent weeks working on those designs. We stayed up late drinking cheap coffee while I mapped out the user journey, the back-end structure, even the mock-up interface. Brett was excited at first, but when Chase Delroy entered the picture, everything changed. Chase was flashy. Slick suit, big smile, and the kind of attitude that made your skin crawl if you really paid attention. He told Brett my version was too basic and not investor-ready. Brett, of course, nodded like a bobblehead and tossed my prototype aside. I remember how it crushed me. Still, I backed off, thinking maybe they knew better. Now, flipping through the folder, I saw something I'd forgotten. I'd signed every page. My name, Lena Cartwright, in neat black ink, right next to the dates. I'd done it out of habit, trying to stay organized. Brett never even noticed. I stared at the last page where I'd written a short note to myself. Trust your gut. Build what matters. My heart pounded. This wasn't just any design. This was the core of the app Brett was about to pitch to major investors. It was the heart of everything, and it was mine. Suddenly, everything clicked. Brett had thrown me out, thinking I had nothing. But he didn't realize the deal he was chasing relied on something I created. Something I still owned. He thought he won. But the truth? He'd left behind the one piece that could ruin him. I leaned back and smiled for the first time in days. He took my home, my time, my trust. But in his arrogance, he handed me the blueprint to my comeback. Arden didn't ask too many questions when I showed up at her apartment, holding my torn suitcase and a trash bag of clothes. She just opened the door, stepped aside, and said, "You look like hell. Couch is yours." That's who she is, Arden Fletcher. My best friend since 6th grade, sharp-tongued, fiercely loyal, and allergic to drama unless it's served in a shot glass at the bar she works at. She tossed me a blanket and sat across from me with a bowl of cereal. "What happened?" she asked, without sugarcoating. "Brett kicked me out," I said, eyes staring at the floor. "Said I didn't bring anything to the table." Arden almost choked on her cereal. "You cleaned houses to pay his Wi-Fi bill and helped pitch his company to investors. Are you kidding me?" I handed her the folder, the one I had grabbed last minute before walking out of that apartment. She flipped through it, whistled low, and shook her head. "Girl, this is good. This is really, really good. You built the whole framework, every piece." She sat quiet for a second, then got up and pulled out her phone. I know someone who needs to see this. That's how I met Callum Pierce. 2 days later, I walked into a quiet little coffee shop where Arden was already waiting with a man in his early 30s. Crisp button-up shirt, wire-framed glasses, and a laptop open in front of him. He looked like the kind of guy who notices everything and says very little. That was Callum. He gave me a polite nod. Arden said you had something interesting to show me? I slid the prototype across the table. He read through it page by page in silence. 10 minutes went by. Then 15. I sipped cold coffee and tried not to chew my nails. Finally, he looked up. Who owns this? He asked. I do, I replied. Every part of it. Signed, dated, timestamp. He didn't even notice. Callum closed the folder. This is far better than what Brett's pitching right now. Cleaner, smarter, scalable. He's selling noise. You built substance. I blinked. So what now? He smiled faintly. Now, you let me make some calls. I think we can make an offer. One that doesn't just get you back on your feet, but puts you way ahead of the man who threw you away. I felt my chest rise with something I hadn't felt in hope. Brett thought I was gone. Out of the picture. Probably crying in some friend's spare room, waiting for life to sort itself out. He had no idea I was already working on something that could end his little fantasy of success. While he sat in pitch meetings with Chase Delroy, slick hair, flashy suits, all ego, I was on Arden's living room floor with a whiteboard, notebooks, and a very old laptop. My goal? Build a working version of my prototype, the one he had tossed aside months ago for a shinier idea Chase pushed on him. I didn't have much money, but I had something better, Miles. Arden's younger brother was a low-key coding genius who freelanced out of his cluttered bedroom. When Arden told him what I was doing, he didn't even hesitate. You bring the vision, I'll write the code, he said, pushing his glasses up. Let's take your baby back. We worked day and night, fueled by gas station snacks and pure stubbornness. Slowly, the app came to life. My app. Clean interface. Real user logic. No fluff. It wasn't perfect yet, but it worked, and it made sense. Still, a part of me hesitated. Brett and I had shared a life, even if it was mostly built on me sacrificing everything for him. Could I really go through with this? Could I tank the one thing he cared about most? Then I remembered the look on his face when he threw me out. Cold. Final. Like I was nothing. He didn't just break up with me. He erased me. So no, I didn't owe him anything. I wasn't trying to ruin him. I just wasn't going to step aside and let him take what I built. What I dreamed up in that tiny kitchen while scrubbing floors to keep our lights on. He thought I was gone, but I was just getting started. The day I walked into Callum's firm with my version of the app, now named Hearthline, I felt more nerves than I ever had in my life. My palms were sweating. My heart was racing. But under all that, I felt something stronger, purpose. Callum greeted me at the front with that calm, unreadable look he always had, then led me to a sleek glass conference room. Around the table sat 3 investors from his firm, all sharp suits and sharper questions. I had rehearsed every line, every slide of my pitch deck, but when I started talking, the nerves melted. This was my idea, my story, my work. I showed them how Hearthline wasn't just another social platform or productivity app. It was something real, a tool that helped people connect on a deeper level. Clean design, easy to use, but most importantly, built on real human problems I had spent 2 years understanding while Brett played CEO. Callum leaned forward as I explained how the app would work, how it used real-time data to create helpful life tools, how we could scale it. I watched their eyes shift from curious to impressed. When I finished, they asked tough questions about projections, competition, code structure. But I had answers. I had spent too long building this in the shadows to not know every detail. Finally, one of the investors looked at Callum and said, "This is stronger than Brett's version. Cleaner. More grounded." Callum turned to me. "We're prepared to offer $2.3 million for 51% of Hearthline, with you in a senior leadership role." I paused. My throat tightened. That number. That control. It wasn't just validation, it was freedom. But I needed to be sure. I pulled out my laptop and showed them proof of ownership, the original prototype signed under my name. Timestamps. Metadata. Emails. Every file had my fingerprint on. Brett never bothered to check the details, but I had documented everything, just in case. They reviewed it carefully. No doubts. No red flags. Callum extended the paperwork, and I signed. Just like that, it was official. Hearthline was mine. Not Brett's. Not Chase's. Mine. I walked out of that building with a signed deal, a $2.3 million valuation, and my name on something real. Something I built with my own hands. I wasn't the girl crying with $23 in her pocket anymore. I was the woman who just closed the deal he never saw coming. It didn't take long for the whispers to start. Tech blogs started hinting at a new app launch, Hearthline, led by a woman named Lena Cartwright. Quietly but surely, my name was back in the rooms Brett had tried to shut me out of. I wasn't even trying to go public yet. But the tech world is small and people talk. Especially when a polished, functional app appears out of nowhere, backed by a top-tier venture firm. The same firm Brett had been trying to impress. The moment Brett heard my name tied to Hearthline, he started to spiral. At first, he thought Chase had betrayed him. According to Arden, who still had friends in the scene, Brett showed up at Chase's office screaming about leaks and sabotage. Chase, of course, played dumb. Neither of them had figured it out yet. The version Brett had been pitching was built on a foundation I own. He thought he could change a few colors and call it original. He didn't realize Hearthline wasn't just the product, it was the soul, and I had taken it with me. I heard through Callum that Brett's investors started getting nervous. In a board meeting, someone finally put the pieces together. My app and Brett's weren't just similar. They were nearly identical in concept and features. Except mine was cleaner, more thoughtful, actually working. That's when it happened. His investors started pulling out. One by one. No funding. No deal. No backup plan. And me? I was sipping coffee with Arden, watching the storm I'd quietly created start to land. That afternoon, I sent Brett a gift. Nothing cruel, just symbolic. A bottle of champagne. No note. No explanation. Just a blank card. I wanted him to know it was over. That I wasn't angry anymore. I had already won. He could scream, accuse, and flail all he wanted, but it wouldn't change the fact that Hearthline was mine, and he'd lost everything trying to build a future on something he never valued in the first place. Me. It was a quiet Wednesday night at Arden's bar. The usual crowd was scattered around, some old guys at the pool table, a couple on a date, and me behind the bar helping Arden stack glasses. We were laughing about something silly when the door slammed open so hard it made everyone look up. Brett. He was drunk. You could smell it on him from across the room. His shirt was half untucked, and his eyes were red, not from crying but from pure, boiling rage. I didn't flinch. I just stood there, wiping a glass slowly, while Arden stepped a little closer to me without saying a word. He stumbled toward the bar, voice loud and slurred. You think you won, Lena? You really think you can steal what's mine and just walk around acting proud? I set the glass down carefully. It was never yours, I said quietly. You just never bothered to look close enough. The idea, the design, the soul of it, it was mine from the beginning. You were just too arrogant to see it. That only made him angrier. Arrogant? He barked, turning to the room like he was looking for backup. No one moved. You were just a placeholder. You hear me? A filler until someone better came along. The whole place went dead silent. Even the jukebox seemed to pause. Arden dropped the bar towel and leaned across the counter. You need to leave. Now. Brett shook his head, like he couldn't believe what was happening. I built everything. She's nothing without me. A couple of the regulars stood up from the corner booth. Big guys. Not the kind who start trouble, but definitely the kind who end it. One of them stepped in front of Brett and said, You're done here, man. Get out. Brett looked around and realized this wasn't his space anymore. Maybe it never was. He staggered toward the door, still muttering insults under his breath, but no one cared. Arden walked around the bar and locked the door behind him after he left. I hadn't said a word after his outburst. I didn't need to. I looked at Arden, who gave me a soft smile and a nod. I didn't cry. I didn't break. Because for the first time in years, I felt something stronger than heartbreak. Peace. Hearthline launched on a Monday morning, quietly. No flashy press release, no over-the-top event. Just a clean, purposeful rollout across platform. By noon, the feedback was pouring in. Users praised the simple interface, how intuitive it felt, and most of all, how it seemed built with real people in mind. I stayed away from interviews or headlines. That was never the goal. I didn't want to be a celebrity. I just wanted to be respected. Slowly, I started seeing my name mentioned in forums, in LinkedIn threads, even on tech blogs. The quiet visionary behind Hearthline. It felt surreal. Arden became my rock through it all. I brought her on as operations manager, and she ran the day-to-day like she was born for it. Miles, her brother, officially signed on as lead developer. He didn't say much, but his code spoke volume. We kept things small, deliberate. Every new feature came from real feedback, not just trends, and that made all the difference. There was this one moment, maybe 2 weeks in, when I was reviewing some data reports late at night. Callum called out of the blue, just checking in. You know, he said, funny how the people they throw away end up winning the game. I smiled. They just forgot we were playing. That call stayed with me. I started mentoring women in tech after that. Young women who had ideas but didn't know where to start. Some had been shut out of boardrooms or pushed out of teams by louder voices. I gave them space. Listened. Helped where I could. Because I remembered what it felt like to be underestimated. One of them asked me once, how did you not lose yourself in all of it? I didn't have a perfect answer. But I told her the truth. I almost did. But when someone throws you away, they don't realize they've just set you free. I still keep the old folder on my desk, the one with the original blueprint. Not as a reminder of Brett, but as a reminder of myself, of where it started, of who I've become, and who I'll never be again. It had been almost 6 months since Hearthline launched. Life had settled into a quiet rhythm, early mornings, long but fulfilling workdays, and the kind of peace I hadn't felt in years. Then one afternoon, I got an email that stopped me cold. The subject line read, "Inquiry regarding Brett Malone, legal assistance requested." It was from a law office representing a woman named Sienna Clark. The name felt familiar. Then it clicked. Years ago, Brett had mentioned an ex who couldn't keep up with his vision. He said she'd tried to steal his ideas, but he'd shut that down fast. Now, it looked like Sienna had her own story and receipts. Her lawyer explained everything. Sienna had worked with Brett during an earlier startup attempt. She had sketched out most of the UI and even built early code. But before they could launch, Brett abruptly cut ties. No credits, no paperwork, no payment, just gone. She'd tried to reach out to me years ago. She wanted to warn me. She had seen my name in an article Brett posted and recognized the pattern. But her messages never got through. Brett had intercepted them. Now, Sienna had finally decided to take legal action. And when Hearthline gained traction, her lawyer did some digging and found me. They asked if I'd be willing to help. I didn't answer right away. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, looking over old documents. Emails, design files, meeting notes. I found something I hadn't seen in years. A printed email from Sienna, dated 2.5 years ago, flagged unread in a forgotten folder Brett had backed up on a shared drive. It made my stomach turn. The next morning, I replied to her lawyer. I forwarded everything. Early prototype drafts, calendar notes with overlapping development timeline, even one voice memo where Brett described how Sienna had been annoying but useful. I didn't want revenge anymore, not the kind that consumed you. But justice? That felt different. That felt right. Later that week, I got a thank you message from Sienna herself. Simple. Honest. He stole years from both of us. Thank you for not staying silent. I stared at those words for a while. People like Brett think they can outrun the consequences forever. But the truth is, justice doesn't always come loudly. Sometimes it walks in slowly, gathering strength, carried forward by the very people they tried to silence. The morning was crisp, the kind that made the city feel clean and new. I had a Hearthline strategy meeting across town, and the car dropped me off a few blocks early, so I could take a walk. That's when I saw it, my old apartment building. The same cracked steps where I stood, heartbroken, clutching a trash bag of clothes while Brett slammed the door behind me. I remembered every detail from that night. The ache in my chest, the cold, the humiliation. I had $23 in my wallet and nowhere to go. But today was different. I wore a tailored navy suit and heels that clicked confidently against the sidewalk. My earbuds played a calming playlist, and my calendar buzzed with back-to-back meetings about expansion plans and new hires. My name, Lena Cartwright, was etched on Hearthline's leadership page, and soon, on the building we just leased for our second office. I didn't stop walking. I didn't need to. The apartment was just a building now. Not a wound. Not a memory that controlled me. Just bricks and windows and someone else's baggage now, not mine. I passed a delivery guy hauling boxes inside. He barely glanced at me. That used to be me, always invisible. Always working behind the scenes. Always sacrificing for someone else's dream. Not anymore. Miles had just finalized a new update to the app. Arden was leading operations like she'd been born for it. Callum had scheduled me for a podcast interview later that week, saying it was time I got some credit publicly. I wasn't chasing recognition, but I wasn't hiding from it either. As I walked, I smiled to myself. Not out of pride or revenge, but peace. I'd built something real, something mine, and I had surrounded myself with people who saw me, respected me, and had never once asked me to shrink. I reached the corner, turned away from the past, and kept moving forward. He kicked me out with $23. I left with $2.30 million, and my name finally on the door. Do you think Lena made the right choice by walking away and building something on her own? Or should she have tried to fix things with Brett from the start? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if stories like this speak to you, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.